Joe Reinagel, Jason Minix, The Blitz on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
It is The Blitz here on 94.1 at San Antonio Sports Star. He is Joe Reinagel. I'm Jason Minix. I'm trying to think of days in the Houston Texans history that have had more excitement than what we're getting today with the hiring of DeMeco Ryans, a guy that's been around for every one of those days of the Houston Texans' existence. The voice of the Houston Texans, Marc Vandermeer, joining us now. Mark, what's the mood like in the building today?
It's unbelievable, guys. I've never seen it like this. Everybody is so pumped up. You would not believe how excited people in the business office are, football ops, the rejoicing going on around here that DeMeco Ryans is the head coach. This franchise has suffered some tough times the last few years. We all know that. It's well documented. To have this happen, I mean, even if things were going great, to have this happen would be phenomenal. But especially considering you're coming off 3 seasons where you win 4 in 3 games, and then you get DeMeco Ryans, who's an outstanding coach and a tremendous leader to lead the team. This is a day of utter joy for this organization, and we're soaking in it.
You know, Mark, it's interesting because leading up to this announcement, we've heard that the Texan fans are just elated. They can't wait for this announcement, hoping that it happens. But it really seemed like this was a tug-of-war between the Texans and the Broncos. What did the Texans do that you, if you know, that pushed Ryans over the edge to come back to Houston?
You know, I'm not really sure of all those details, and I know that it was taking, I don't think it took a long time. I mean, here we are, it's Tuesday, and he just coached a game 48 hours ago, right? But I guess it felt like a long time, and, you know, they were trying to work things out, and there was a report that Denver was making a big push, even as late as this morning, and who knows what goes on. But, you know, everybody's got to make life-changing decisions within a 48-hour period or less, and I think that's difficult for all parties, right? And DeMeco, this is a huge move for him. He's got a great gig as defensive coordinator for the 49ers. I always think you have to strike when the iron's hot. I don't know what the Broncos were offering. I don't know what was going on there, but I do know this. He's a Houston Texans head coach right now. You know, he's got a history here. He loves it here. He's got so many friends here. He comes back in the offseason a lot. His wife's from here. And I think that it's really going to be great for him to be in this community with this franchise, with all the draft capital they have, with Nick Caserio here, the support of the McNairs. The Texans can really get going now.
Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans, joining us here on the Blitz on 94.1 at San Antonio Sports Star. Mark, I think about the coaching search and some of the interviews that I saw that Cal McNair did, one at that big award ceremony a week ago where he talked about second interviews and the number of people that they talked to. But it all kind of came back to it was going to be DeMeco Ryans or a letdown. He hit a home run. Nick Caserio hits the home run. Was there ever doubt in the building that it wouldn't be DeMeco Ryans?
Well, I think that, you know, in many cases, let me word it this way. In many cases, you just don't know what's going on behind those closed doors, right? I mean, I see Nick all the time get coffee or whatever in the cafeteria, but I'm not like, oh, give me the latest. You know, everyone's got a job to do, and he's not asking me about our broadcasting plans for the offseason either, by the way. So everybody's doing their jobs. And, you know, when you make the small talk, it tends to be about other things. And I think what was happening was they were having a very thorough search, you know, because you don't know you're going to get DeMeco Ryans. He might be your number one choice, but are you going to be able to land him? It's not always about money. Maybe he just doesn't want to come here. Who knows? So they had to talk to Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, Mike Kafka, all these other candidates they talked to. And they ultimately get the guy they wanted most of all. I know the McNairs wanted him most of all. And, you know, for Nick Caserio to have a guy like this to work with who comes from sort of a different perspective of things with that Kubiakian, Shanahanian system, however you want to describe it, and what he's been doing on defense there. One thing about DeMeco I find very interesting is the 49ers have been around since 1946. We all know what they've done on the field. They have never been number one in points and yards together on defense until DeMeco Ryans coordinated that D. That's saying something in that organization, and I hope it translates to great head coaching, and I know it will with his leadership skills. He's just got to pick the right staff and let him go.
You know, Mark, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, this guy was coveted around the league. Nobody ever says anything bad about DeMeco Ryans, and his resume speaks for itself with what he did in San Francisco. What about you? What were your interactions with DeMeco like? Did you have a lot of those?
Well, all right. So I've been around here from the get-go, and everything you hear is true. That the first time you see DeMeco in mini camps and stuff like that in the offseason, you just point to him like, oh my gosh, that guy's the total alpha out there. He's the leader. There's no question about it. He comes in as a rookie, but he's acting like a veteran. Everybody's looking to him. It was amazing. And, that draft day I'll never forget, because that was the draft where they took Mario Williams #1, which was not a popular move at the time, gentlemen, as you recall.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people wanted either Vince Young or Reggie Bush. And why are you taking Mario? And so there was unrest during the draft. And then that was when the first 3 rounds were in the first day of the draft. So the second round hits, and they take DeMeco top of the second round. And there was just this sort of, a calm set over the building. Like, oh my gosh, they just got this first round talent top of the second round. And, the way it's happening today, today's excitement, obviously, but also you're in great hands. And I think the feeling was then you're in great hands. So one of my early interactions, I like telling the story because we were doing an event in Kemah, and I had met him before, but like you're meeting the rookies and I'm emceeing events or whatever, and it's quick. One of the other rookies asked me who I was, and DeMeco said, "Oh, that's Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Texans. He did this other event we did." Like he already knew who I was, and think about all the people in the building he's got to get to know. So that impressed me because it's all about me, guys.
Yes,
of course,
of
but
course.
that impressed me. And I never forgot that. And the guy's a total leader, like we said, and was a terrific player, defensive rookie of the year, 2-time Pro Bowler. And here he is back in Houston.
Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans, joining us here on the Blitz. And you think about Mark, the media-friendly player that he was, back in the day when we would be down there doing our shows on the sideline in the bubble during practice. I know I've got a great photo of there was special teams practice, so we're interviewing DeMeco during the show. He's such a media-friendly guy. Will he be that way as head coach, or is it your responsibility for the rest of us to make sure he stays that way as the head coach?
I think he's going to be fine. I don't know if he's going to be Chris Rock during interviews or anything like that, but he is charismatic, as we know, and he just knows so much and has been through so much football. I like guys who have played, and there's so much to talk to them about their playing experience and how it translates into coaching and different situations that come up in games. So you guys interview players all the time. That really helps players and coaches, I should say, when the coaches have actually played at this level in the league. I think it's going to be fine like that. The bottom line is, can you win some football games? We had some great coaches here to do shows with, and I love doing the shows with Lovey and even Cully, of course, and O'Brien at his best was unbelievable on the air. But this comes down to, can you build a sustainable winning pattern here in this organization with DeMeco and Nick Caserio? And I really think they can. And I'm looking forward to seeing this whole thing unfold.
All right, Mark, I know there's no way for you to answer this because we just got a new head coach and the draft is coming up and nobody knows. But being the fact that DeMeco is a defensive guy, do you think, just your experience and a gut feeling, think that he just might go for one of these 2 talented defensive guys with that #2 pick? Or do you think he sticks with a quarterback?
I think he'll do. I hate to be like, he'll do what's right for the team.
Yeah.
I do think that hiring him, if they don't go quarterback at #2, remember they have #12 also, and they can still trade around and who knows. But if they don't go quarterback at #2, I think having DeMeco here would remove some of the sting of that with the fans, right? In other words, if they hired Shane Steichen or Jonathan Gannon and they don't take quarterback at 2, that's a big buzzkill. And I'm just talking offseason. Maybe it's the ultimately correct decision for this team, but I'm just talking about the way the fans perceive it at the moment. And I believe that having him here just gives you a lot of credibility. He, combined with Caserio, who has drafted well so far for this team, that's going to buy them a lot of credibility with the fan base. So I think no matter what they do, it'll be accepted. But it's always a wait and see. And, to a large extent, they want to see if you're going to win or not, even if they draft Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, or whoever.
Marc Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans. Now, we've got our head coach. Now the next big thing is the offensive coordinator. So when you're next to Nick at the coffee machine, who do you think is going to be the OC?
It's funny because when I call him Baby LaFleur became available, I thought maybe you get him, Matt's little brother, Mike, who's now in L.A. with Sean McVay. So he's off the table. He was in San Francisco, right? So I thought, oh, maybe that would be a good one. And then, when Kellen Moore got let go, I thought, oh, man, but then he got scooped up instantly. So I don't really know. I'm wondering about this. Like, who comes out of the woodwork for DeMeco? He played for Mike Shula, who is still around as a senior assistant in Buffalo. I'm not saying he's coming here, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see some names like that, guys you're not expecting, because he's got a lot of connections that people aren't really aware of or aren't paying attention to right now. And it'll be exciting to see what he puts together.
Mark, you always do a great job. You've been there for a long time, but I hear the excitement in your voice. And I think you speak for everybody else that is a fan of the Houston Texans today, just the excitement that you're showing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I am excited. And like I said, everybody here is walking on air right now. And I told DeMeco that like not that long ago. I said, we've been floating around here all day thinking that this is going to happen. And I said to Cal McNair, I said, Twitter's blowing up. It's like we won 5 playoff games. And he said, well, let's go win 5 playoff games. So I'm all for that. But yeah, this organization has been through a lot, like I said, and I think the people here, the fans, everybody involved with the Houston Texans in whatever way, shape, or form deserves something great to happen like this. Now, it's only the offseason, it's step one, but you've got a tremendous individual at the helm right now. We're all excited to see where it goes.
Mark, you've alluded to it twice, and I hate to pick at a scab on a day like today, but can you put into perspective what it's really been like for the last couple of years? It's one thing in the misery the fans have gone through and they let us know, but just working in the building, assuming that DeMeco is obviously going to get more than 1 year. You get a player like J.J. Watt tweeting his excitement. I'm guessing he'll be front and center with the ambassador program, or at least willing to do things with the organization now. Can you talk about just how bad it had gotten?
I'm wondering what other players that DeMeco played with come out of the woodwork and want jobs, like guys who haven't been coaching, like, I can coach. I don't know. We'll see if that happens or not, but I'm sure his phone's blowing up. It's been tough because people ask me, like, what went wrong? Well, it's a number of things. You can't put your finger on just one thing. There are a lot of snowball effects that were generated from certain decisions, and you could point to a number of them. It just got bad, right? They fired O'Brien after 4 games in 2020, and then you get the Watson news. And look, there are other things that happened in between that, but I think the Watson news is fascinating because had he never requested the trade and the lawsuit still come down, where does that put you, right? Because then, are you going to live with that, defend that, or not like that? I don't know how you're going to deal with that. So to me, there are a lot of things that happen, but you are where you are right now. And you guys always know it's like life itself. What happened. There's nothing more important than the next thing, than the future, than today and tomorrow. And that's what they're dealing with right now. So it has been really difficult, especially since, prior to last year, they had not had back-to-back losing seasons in 15 years before that. DeMeco in 2006 was a rookie. That was the last time they had back-to-back losing seasons until they go 2020, 2021, and now 2022, right? So they had 3 in a row. And that was the first time since the early years, since before DeMeco. So it's really interesting to me, but here he is. And, I don't want to call him the savior or anything like that, but he really comes in here with a fine script, guys. This is the NFL, and it's all about script writing, right? You have this guy with deep steel blue DNA walking through the door who can save the day, and I'm hoping he can get it done. And I have great confidence he can.
It's a great day for the Houston Texans. Mark, as a longtime friend, I'm happy for you, man. I really am happy for you.
I appreciate that, Jason. And thanks, Joe. It really is exciting here. And, the draft, you got picks, galore, picks for days, right? So let's hope they do the right things here. Free agency before that. There's nothing like the NFL offseason hot stove. And I know we still have the Super Bowl to go, so let's all enjoy it.
I know it's and to steal your words, it's one of those rock and roll kind of days.
Absolutely.
Go look at my Twitter feed. I put out Jimmy Page with the double neck because it is a rock and roll day.